second Lunenburg Town Council meeting via Zoom audio video conference live broadcast. So welcome to everyone who's able to join us with this new technology, or you all getting used to. And with the incredible week that we've had, or week and a bit that we've had since we last met and as public council, I would like to take this opportunity to have a special recognition of the lives that were lost through the tragic events that happened in Colchester and Cumberland and Hants counties on April 18th and 19th. And I would ask you please to join me in a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you for doing that. And I'd also just mention that today is April 28th is the National Day of Mourning, and it's a day that we typically take a few moments aside to acknowledge the importance of workplace safety and to rejuvenate our efforts to ensure the safety of everyone in our workplace. And in this current time, that's even more challenging. And I want to thank our staff, our town staff, and all essential workers, of which they are a part, for what they do to protect themselves, their colleagues, and the general public. And thank them for all the extra steps they've had to take just to do their jobs in these very challenging times. So thank you for all of that. And now to get on with the regular business of our council, and that starts with the approval of our agenda. So I'd ask for a motion to approve, please. Moved by Councillor Mosher, seconded by Councillor Risser. And just noting that there are priority items that are bolded, and so we have a time frame with which we try to get our business done, and we may adjust the timing of how we deal with that business according to the bolded items. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And next on the order of business is the approval of the minutes of our April 14th meeting. For approval, thank you, from Councillor Bachmann and the Deputy Mayor. Any errors, omissions, notes to make from that meeting? There are none. All in favor? Any opposed? None to be opposed, so motion is carried. Next standing item is public hearings and presentations, of which there are none today. Likewise, number 4, correspondence, we can move right through, and we get to number 5, committee meeting minutes and recommendations. We have 5A, the draft Lunenburg County Regional Emergency Management Organization Committee meeting minutes of March 16th, and they're for our information. 5B, General Government Committee, they met on April 16th, and there are 3 recommendations as the form of notices of motion from that meeting. So I would look to the Deputy Mayor to present those, please.
Your Worship, the first motion was to forward consideration of the revised draft council and committee meeting procedures policy to council for approval. So, you want
So
the-
you
want-
would do that as a notice of motion. I see Councillor Bachman's name is there. He may have
Yeah.
been the councillor who did that at the committee level. So either or.
Well, I was just going by the minutes, but it should have been Councillor Risser who brought it up.
Oh, okay.
Happy to move that.
Okay. So Councillor Rissell will provide us a notice of motion of both of the council and committee meetings procedures policy and the second
Sure,
revised,
why not?
the revised work on private property.
That one was me, so I'm willing to make that motion.
Okay, sorry, I guess I'm just looking at the agenda and it's not clearly defined there. So Councillor Risser will give notice of motion of council and committee meetings proceedings policy, which he has done. And then we'll ask Councillor Bachman to give the notice of motion for work on private property policy. Is that correct?
Correct. So
Sorry.
moved.
Thank you. Is that captured appropriately? I'll ask Ms. Renton.
And the
Yes,
third,
it is, your worship. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, yes, go ahead.
third one being the notice of motion for the parking meter bylaw changes, which I will give notice of motion for.
Great.
Your worship, it's Patrick here. Just there were a couple of amendments that were forwarded to council as a result of the general government meeting.
So it is, we are able to say that we move the we move those forward as part of the notice of motion to adopt for the May 12th meeting. And then just checking the date on that as well.
Right, your worship, that has to be advertised. Oh, sorry, no, you're right. That's fine. It's just notice of motion. Afterwards, it has to be advertised. We'll have to give at least 2 weeks, so that you're quite right. That would be fine, even for, well, probably best for the 12th to leave it at that. Yeah.
And we can, as Mr. Burke pointed out to us, there were some amendments that were made at the committee level that are duly noted to be included with the
Notice of motion.
notice of motion.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. So then I think we're then able, oh, and welcome to Councillor Carnavale. Welcome to the meeting. Thank you. It's nice that you're able to join us and nice to have you back with us following your leave of absence. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just had problems trying to get on, but I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
Very good. So 5C, we'll move to Heritage Advisory Committee of April 20th. And there are 3 recommendations from that committee meeting. So Chair Councillor Mosier, speak to that, please.
Okay, thanks, Your Worship. The first recommendation is that Council authorizes the HAC to invite the Board of the Lunenburg Heritage Society for a discussion on the proposed Heritage Conservation District Plan and Bylaw, and to receive their comments at a future meeting of the HAC prior to Council holding a public hearing, as the draft Heritage Conservation District Plan and Bylaw is currently on hold and pending comprehensive community plan. It is recommended that the invitation to the Lunenburg Heritage Society wait until HCD plan and bylaw is reviewed in light of the provisions of the CPP, municipal planning strategy, and land use bylaw. So I'd so move that recommendation.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that? recommendation. Councillor Carnevale seconding? Or yes, okay, yes. And Councillor Risser, you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'm perhaps not quite understanding the purpose of this because I think it's a little superfluous in light of the fact that through the comprehensive community plan process, a wide range of stakeholders were consulted to produce a what we heard report that sort of lays out the community mind. So I'm of two minds on this. One, I don't think it's necessary. And two, if this as such a consultation were to go ahead, I think it should be more balanced than just the Heritage Society, as the comprehensive plan looked at all the different stakeholders. So I don't think I'm in favor of this right now.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other hands, but I just had a point of, oh, yes, Councillor Mosier, go ahead.
You go first and then I'll just.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, and I was just going to ask for the point of clarification, which I could probably get if I read more carefully the motion that you put forth. But I'm just wondering about the timing. It was quite precise, and there was an understanding that there needed to be some sequencing to when things happened. So I'm wondering even about the benefit of deferring the motion to closer to the time, but I don't know if you can speak to that at all.
Well, that is a good point, because it's kind of asking for permission to do this, and yet it's saying it's not going to happen for, you know, a period of time in the future. And probably by the time it happens, we'll have forgotten that we've okayed it anyway. The other discussion that we had in the meeting was whether or not we even need to ask council's permission to have an advisory group speak to us. I mean, that was basically, that's basically the request. I mean, but you know, it's always good to keep council informed of what we're doing. I don't know how council wants to proceed, so it's whatever council will for me.
Yes, Councillor Bachman.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the meeting due to work commitment, but I'm just wondering what the HAC was looking to gain with the conversation from the Heritage Society. We've got a couple of their members that sit on the HAC committee, so just wondering what extra information we would be looking for they might be able to provide us with.
Yeah, and I was at the meeting, but I don't know if the chair is able to speak to that. I don't think Mr. McDonald is with us today.
Yeah, unfortunately, Arthur's not here, and it was sort of his suggestion that we recommend this. It didn't come to any opposition from the committee. I mean, again, just no harm in getting information. I guess that was the point. But again, it was thought that it should come before council to, you know, to let them know what we're doing and to have their permission to do so.
Yes, Councillor Risser.
Thank you, Worship. Just letting everybody know that it looks like Arthur has signed in, so maybe you'd want to get him to speak to this.
Arthur, you can turn your video on, please.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I was trying to do that. The thought being here was that we did have a policy as well as a bylaw provision, especially when there's public hearings with regards to any demolition of any building within the district. So staff thought that it would be a great idea to actually invite, have an official invite for the Heritage Society to come to the HAC for a discussion. There may be substantial alterations pending the outcomes of the comprehensive community plan and municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. So we will most likely have to hold additional public participation meetings, which obviously they may attend. But I just thought it would be a positive feeling to actually invite them to, maybe it could be the same meeting as the public participation meeting, or it could be a separate meeting. But I just thought it'd be a positive move.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald, for that clarification. Any further discussion? Ready for the question then? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, and just for clarification, Councillor Carnavale, was that a vote in opposition to the motion?
So it was move it forward. A positive.
Okay, thank you. It's, your hand movements are going to have to work with you a bit. I think maybe on positioning of the camera so we can make that distinction, but thank you very much for clarifying. So the motion is carried. Sorry for the sideline commentary here. And we'll look to Councillor Mosier for the next recommendation.
Recommendation number 2 is that Town Council approve the following nominations for the town's 2020 Heritage Recognition Award Ceremony. I won't give you why each address, but I'll read off the addresses. It's 2 Kemp Street. I may as well do this because we're not, oh yeah, thank you, Heather, that's up there. So 2 Kemp Street, 196 Lawrence Street, 80 Creighton Street, 194 Montague Street, 160 Montague Street, 205 Pelham Street, and 12 King Street. And I would so move that recommendation.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if I can see everyone. Is there a seconder for that recommendation? I see Councillor Croft got his hand up there. Thank you very much. So moved and seconded that we move that Town Council approve those nominations to be recognized with our Heritage Recognition Award at a ceremony that is yet to be determined. I think we, as noted, it's typically done during our birthday celebrations, which are not a certain thing or not, so we'll figure that out. But any discussion or questions on that? And then Mr. McDonald is here with us to speak with that. Yes, Councillor Croft.
Curious as far as the recognition, what we do for these addresses. Is there just a certificate given to them, or is there other recognition that's given?
I'll ask Mr. McDonald to speak to that. It's the lovely plaques and public recognition usually that's provided, but perhaps Mr. McDonald can explain it more clearly.
Yes, Your Worship. I believe you stated that quite well. Basically, during the ceremonies for the town's birthday celebrations, we have these plaques done up with recognition of a job well done in the community for restoring heritage properties. And there's like 4 or 5 different categories. The categories are actually listed in the recommendation there, so you can see where some are with regards to successfully blending an addition that contributes positively to the design of the original structure. And there's a few other ones there as well. But it's a way of recognizing a job well done for the historic preservation of our town. Generally, it applies to the entire town in any small or large projects. So it's a very positive thing. People and property owners, as well as carpenters and developers, are very appreciated of getting recognition for their work.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I'm not sure how many years we've been doing it now. It's a relatively new thing that we've done since Mr. McDonald joined us, our staff, on staff, I believe. But certainly having participated in several of these recognition ceremonies to date. They're very well received, and people are very appreciative of the recognition. And I think it goes to a broader objective, a broader goal of promoting good heritage preservation within the town. So it serves a good purpose.
This
Thank
will
you.
be our third year actually of the program, so. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? We're ready for the question on the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And there's a final recommendation, Councillor Mosier?
Yep, the third and final recommendation is that town council refuse the 112 to 118 Lincoln Street registered municipal heritage property request to amend the heritage permit issued on October 23rd, 2019 for a heat pump screen as shown in attachment H and attachment 1, Schedule C. I would so move that recommendation.
Thank you very much. And is there a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Bachman, thank you. So I hope, yes, Deputy Mayor.
Your worship, I'm a little confused with this. You know, we've often told people that they can't have things like oil tanks and so on in front of any utilities in front of their buildings unless they cover it up with a lattice or something. But if they covered it up, it was acceptable. So I'm not sure what the issue is here. Is it the fact that, you know, the example that they give of the proposed cover is not acceptable, or is it the fact that they just don't want to have a heat pump of any kind in front of the building, which I'm not sure we're allowed to do. I mean, the bylaw is clear that if you I guess camouflage it, you're allowed to do it. So I'm not sure what the objection is here to doing it.
I will ask. Oh,
I can speak to that if you
Sure.
wish. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, the protection they put up around it is nothing like they originally when the original request went in. So that's why it's been rejected.
So the heat pump is there and they've screened it, but not to the standard that they had said they would do in the application. So, and I don't know if Mr. McDonald wants to clarify any further the issue.
Thank you, Your Worship. The main point here is that council, it's a registered municipal heritage property, and those utility structures have to be approved by council. He submitted a design where council passed a motion, and it was quite a lovely screen. I believe that was one of the reasons why both the HAC and council approved it. Unfortunately, the applicant didn't realize that it had to be exactly the same as the screen that he submitted, but it's clearly tied to the heritage permit, the motion of council back in October 22nd, I believe, 2019. Council approved that motion. So it's not really in keeping with the motion of council. Now, council may at this time decide to amend it and pass a motion approving the screen that has been erected, or otherwise refuse it. That will be up to council.
Thank you. So yes, Deputy Mayor.
No, Your Worship, I'm fine with that explanation. You know, I thought we were just maybe not allowing it, and I thought, well, I agree. I think what they're proposing doesn't really look well either, but I thought if we went back and suggested that they should do something else, which we already have. So no, I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Okay. Is everyone else clear on the recommendation and the issue at hand? Very good. So all in favor of the recommendation? Motion? Any opposed? Motion is, motion, opposition or further question?
A question. You know,
Okay, so motion is carried. Yes,
thank you.
go ahead.
I brought this up one other time as far as, you know, the new normal that we're in now. you know, was it really necessary to have well over 100 pages on this item, you know, including the full Heritage Conservation District plan? You know, I think it makes it very difficult when you're just sort of got your iPad and, you know, trying to do both at the same time. I'm just wondering if we needed to, you know, include those kinds of, that volume of document for these discussions. So throw that out as a what for.
Okay, thanks. I know it is a constant struggle knowing, wanting us as counselors and decision makers to have all of the information we might want to refer to at hand, but I understand your point, and perhaps there's a better way of doing it with maybe even links or notices of where you can find that bigger piece of legislation or whatever. So I will have it noted that we'd like to look into that further again. Thanks. So now we're through number 5 and into 6, unfinished business. And under 6A, corporate services, we have sort of the order of the day, the main topic on our agenda today, which is our draft revised 2021 budget for Lunenburg Town Council, or Lunenburg for our town. And we have Ms. Dagley and Mrs. Rayfuse with us today to go over that revised document with us. And I would like to start off, you know, further to my opening comments about what this pandemic has done. It's certainly thrown a wrench into our normal order of business as far as the budget is concerned, and a lot of work goes into this document in the first place, and now a lot more work has had to go into this document to take into account the impact of the pandemic on our community. So thank you very much to Ms. Dagley and Ms. Rayfuse, and if they prepared some very good slides for us to go, and I think they're going to lead us through those now. So turn it over to Ms. Dagley.
Thank you, Your Worship. If Heather could put the slides up. For those who are following along in their agenda package, the slides do start at page 233, I believe, in the agenda package for today. So just to begin, we have prepared a brief, which I hope a fairly brief presentation for Council of highlighting the changes in the budget that we have presented today. Heather, do you want to just move to the next slide? The budget before Council today has been updated due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. All of the town managers, who very kind of Your Worship to acknowledge Kathleen and myself, but all senior managers have been participating in this review. And the budget continues to focus on Council's budget priority for 2021, the wastewater treatment and collection. Heather, do you want to advance the slide? It seems so long ago that the 2021 budget process began back in November, with Council setting the previous noted budget priority of wastewater treatment and collection. The revised budget before Council today continues to maintain current service levels. Next slide. Prior to the COVID provincial state of emergency, Council had held 3 special budget meetings to review the 2021 draft budget. Today's presentation focuses on the changes to the budget since it was last reviewed by Council at the public meeting on March the 10th. As municipalities in Nova Scotia cannot budget for a deficit, to offset decreases in revenues, the town's expenses have been reduced by just over $373,000. Next slide, Heather. So There is a brief summary for each departmental review, and we'll begin with general government, which if you're following along in the budget document, it is on page 12, or in the agenda package, it's page 265. And perhaps just before I begin the reviews, we'll just go over briefly the layout again. So the column to the far left is the change in the budget from what we're now calling this current one, version 2 versus version 1. And moving to the right, just after the account names, is the version 2 budget. Then there's the version 1 budget. Then there is the 1920 approved budget, the projections for 1920, and there is also some explanatory notes to the far right column. Within the general government section, the following reductions have been made. For council training, conferences and travel have been reduced due to the current travel restrictions and the fact that many conferences have been canceled. There have been HR and meeting pay adjustments. The budget incorporates the elimination of staff meeting pay and the elimination of the annual cost of living adjustments for all staff for the current fiscal year. Council will see that we have also, as we move through the other departments today, that we have incorporated those same changes through all departmental budgets. All fuel budgets have been reduced by 10% based on the current pricing, and legal services have been reduced in many departments by approximately 20% based on the anticipated needs for the upcoming fiscal year. Before I move on to the next department, if there are any particular questions on a particular department, we can certainly cycle back at the end, but I just wanted to pause in case there were particular questions on a particular department.
Thank you. Any questions with respect to the budget changes that are noted here? You know, to HR and meeting pay. Those are council, conference, training, and travel. Council honorariums are not included in this at this point, Ms. Dagley, or are?
They currently are not. The current motion that we have is for council to have an annual CPI adjustment each November 1st, based on the previous year's CPI. So there has been no change to that reflected in the budget as of right now.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any other questions on this before? Yes, Councillor Croft?
Yeah, I was just wondering under grants to organizations, if that should be adjusted somewhat, because there probably will be some events that will not be happening as well. So I guess we're going to review that at some point in time. So maybe that's the time to do it.
Yes, well, there certainly are still some requests that have come in, but even as of yesterday, I did receive one that had been canceled. But that we do need to look at setting a meeting time to review those as a general government committee for those events that are still going forward, and some of them are just for support of particular organizations.
Yeah. That's a very good point raised, and we probably, and prior to the full approval maybe of, I'm not sure, but at some point we do need to approve that amount, and it would be good to know what the need is out there for different organizations, and might be that community organizations may not need our support in the same way, but they may still need it. So I guess it would be really helpful to go through that list of requests and see what the need is of that amount in our budget.
Sure, but all the grant requests, I believe, were just posted to the SharePoint site yesterday, Your Worship. So many councillors probably haven't had an opportunity to look at the requests that have come in so far. And finance staff will do a summary up and make sure that's circulated as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any other questions on that section? If not, we'll get you to carry on, Ms. Dagley. Lisa, are you there? Well, we may be experiencing some technical difficulties. I think we lost with Ms. Dagley. I'll wait for some direction from staff here.
Yeah, her Zoom connection just broke, just dropped out for her. I'm just gonna ask her to log back in.
Okay, all right, well, we'll hang on to that thought. That grant requests budget line item that we haven't noted in the revised numbers was for a $20,000 amount, and that's what we've traditionally allotted for that. Are you back with us, Ms. Dagley?
Apparently I am here, so my apologies. My whole app restarted.
Oh.
But while it was restarting, the account, Ms. Race and I were discussing the amounts. So far in total, there have been $35,000 worth of grant requests to date.
Okay. So we will we will have to set a number. We talked about doing that at general government. So that's traditionally where they are reviewed first, and we may look to then set a special meeting to go through that list initially to see if there's any change that can be made to that budget line item. So, but in the meantime, we'll get you to carry on with the next section then.
Thank you, Your Worship. So moving on to other protective services, which you will find on page 17 of the budget document or 270 of the agenda package. So within this departmental budget, there have been reductions in bylaw enforcement based on the anticipated needs for the upcoming fiscal year. And building inspection costs have been reduced based on the current economic conditions. I'll just pause for a moment at the end of each slide in case there are any questions.
Any questions with respect to those proposed changes to the budget? Nope. All very well explained. Go ahead.
Great. So if you want to advance the slide, Heather. So the next is fire protection, which you will find on page 19 of the budget document or page 272 of the agenda package. As a result of our sharing arrangement with District 1 and 2, any reductions within the fire protection budget also reduce the revenue sharing with the district, which is noted at the bottom of page 19. And you can also find the revenue portion on the bottom of page 5. Within the fire departmental budget, there have been reductions for fire protection prevention advertising. And they have also reduced their conferences and training for this particular year based on the cancellations that have already been announced for a number of events.
Okay, any questions with respect to that page? Seeing none, we'll carry on.
The next department is transportation, which you will find on page 25 of the budget document or page 278 of the agenda package. So here, in addition to the elimination of meeting pay and CPI adjustments previously mentioned, staff are also proposing a hiring freeze for any current vacant positions. And there are currently 2 vacant positions within the Public Works labor pool. In addition to that, there have been changes to the equipment repairs, which have increased in this budget version, as a replacement of one of the Public Works small vehicle fleet will be deferred due to budgetary restrictions this year. There has also been crack sealing of streets will be deferred this year, and some parking meter repairs.
Okay. Any questions around that? It's always difficult to defer doing things that we know must be done, but such is the nature of the world we're in at the moment. And there aren't any questions, and I can't always see all of you, so please speak up if I don't notice a hand raised. Yes, oh, Councillor Croft.
Your worship, just wondering if public works staff could give us a report at some time. Obviously it's not important right now, but there are quite a few streets that are getting in pretty bad shape around in different areas of town, and all along with some sidewalks as well that are heaving and cracking up pretty bad. So just some thoughts as to how we're going to get some of these repairs done, I guess, moving forward, because there is quite a need for maintenance out there, in my mind anyway.
Thanks.
Can I just mention, your worship,
Yes.
that the asphalt patching budget and the sidewalk maintenance budget have been maintained within this version of the budget, just to Councillor Croft's point.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. And I know Mr. Tillard is with us. I'm not sure if he wants to speak to that, but I'll certainly give you the opportunity, Mr. Tillard. And I think that there is a regular practice in the 10-year capital planning of assessment of streets and sidewalks. But I'm not sure if you've had a chance to familiarize yourself with that, and if there's maybe a time frame we would look at to having that updated once we deal with the immediate needs of this budget year.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Yes, just to follow up on that, yeah, we have talked about that, about getting out and getting a survey done. I don't think the sidewalks were surveyed last year, perhaps the last 2 years, not too sure. And also the streets. So, but that is on our work plan to actually get out and get some surveys done. So we get the different areas prioritized and see where it all fits within the budget. So that is in the works.
Thank you. And I see Mr. Councillor Risser and then Councillor Croft again to follow up with that, I assume.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, I had to follow through for Lisa. Just in the sense that a hiring freeze is sort of a blunt instrument. So I'm wondering what thought was given to prioritizing things based on the essentialness of the service.
Well, certainly these two items was felt that it could be a minimal impact at this point with the restrictions of social distancing and those sort of things, a minimal impact to operations.
And so Councillor Croft.
I just follow up with what Ian said there. With a little bit of walking that I have been doing out around, there are a lot of sidewalks here that do have some trippers on it. So there should be some areas that really have a look at.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, certainly we'll be following up with that. I'm not sure if this would warrant or is needed a report to council on this, but we will have a survey done with priorities and how we deal with it after that. That's, I guess it's up to people's desires around that side of it.
So I think it's a very good point, and it's something that is very much to everyone's front-facing existence in the town. So maybe through Ms. Renton and with Mr. Tillard's help, when that survey work does get done, it could be reported through to council. Is that an appropriate ask, Ms. Renton?
Certainly, Your Worship, and I've noted that in the minutes that I'm taking, that's a follow-up work item for council or for staff. I beg your pardon, to report to council. And I assume that's okay with Mr. Tillard.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for that discussion. Are we able to move on from transportation Back to Ms. Dagley.
Okay, then we move on to environmental health, which you will find on page 31 of the budget document or page 284 of the agenda package. So the HR and meeting pay adjustments within this budget have been offset by increases to the building maintenance budget. The maintenance budget was increased due to the requirement for repairs in this upcoming year. There's essentially no change in that particular budget.
Okay. That is our priority area of concern. It's definitely in need of lots of attention. Difficult to take much away from there. Are there any questions with respect to that section? None, then there aren't any. We can move on. I know that's certainly an area we've had to beef up our maintenance and extra work on, and we've already made some approvals in that regard to make sure that work gets tended to and that piece of infrastructure is taken care of. So can move on then.
Yes, the slide, you've got the right one there, Heather, thank you. So environmental development services on page 38 of the budget document or page 291 of the agenda package. Within this budget, there have been adjustments for advertising and stationery based on reduced anticipated need. There's been adjustments to the repairs and maintenance.
Excuse me, we're having difficulty right now really hearing you. Is it just me or is the sound breaking up for Ms. Dagley? Yeah, I'm not sure why, but we'll give it another go. Couldn't hear very much of what you were just saying.
I don't know if you can hear me. Because that seems to be.
Lisa, try turning your video off. Maybe it's your internet connection.
I don't know that this makes it any better.
Oh, we can hear you much better.
Oh, well, that's even that works for me. It is saying that my speaker is not working, which I don't know why that would be. I seem to have trouble every time we share a screen, so I don't know
Okay.
if that is the issue. But certainly if it works for council, if you can still hear me with the video off, we can proceed like that. So I guess I believe I was at the repairs and maintenance for the Lunenburg Academy. That budget has been reduced because there's a current capital repair facility. The budget document also contains a proposed reduction in the Lunenburg Academy Foundation grant. Based on the elimination of porta potties next to town hall this summer.
Oh. Sorry, Lisa, I don't know if you can hear me, but we're having trouble hearing you again. Yes, Councillor Risser.
Thank you, Worship. Just considering how we're about an hour in, and maybe we should take a brief recess and see if staff can get this sorted out.
That makes sense to me. We'd like to be able to carry on, and it seems like we're having a natural break whether we want to or not. So we'll have a break for we're at 2:55, so we come back at roughly 10 after the hour. We'll try to make sure everything's up and running smoothly then. Thanks.
Heather? Rachel?
I can hear you, Lisa.
I have put my earphones in. I don't know what more I can do other than, I'm sitting in town hall. It shouldn't be an issue for the technology. I find it's every time we share the screen because our app keeps both Kathleen and I, they keep shutting down and starting back up. I don't know if we can